Niakoma, greetings, 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 beautiful black people wherever you are. It's Montsho Nwasha of the Akoma House Initiative, dealing with culturally based counseling and consulting, the art and science of black love culture that's going to help you win at black love. And that's what we're committed to, really helping you win in the realm of black love. So today we're coming forward and we want to talk about a dynamic that's happening in our pop culture, and that is the whole concept of pop the balloon shows. There's many of them. I think the most popular one is with the sister, the African sister, Arlette, I think her name is. But there's quite a few. There's some with men hosts. There's Arlette. So we'll be talking about pop the balloon. We'll also be talking about the phenomenon, which is actually not new, but is very pervasive, of speed dating. Because actually, the pop the balloon shows are a form of speed dating. But speed dating, as it kind of evolved in the late 70s, moving into the 80s, um, also just hookup culture in general, and how social media or investigation of if all of these social platforms and social dynamics are helping us and or if they are hurting us. So if you're listening to this now or at any time you listen to this, please start off by dropping in the chat if you've ever listened to or watch pop the balloon shows, if you've participated ever in your life in speed dating, and or you don't have to say if you've been involved with hookup culture, right? Unless you want to share that. But so we'll start with the pop the balloon show. So first, we want to say at the outstart that, um, you know, my great grandmother used to always say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? And so a lot of times when we look at dynamics that are happening out here in social space, I like to believe, because I'm an optimist, that people mean well. I believe that. Um, I would like to believe that. But oftentimes when I look at what's happening, I question it a lot. Do they actually mean well? Are they actually striving to bring relationships together? Because I think what's happening right now in the wave trend is that a lot of people are using the name of love, which is very magnetic, or black relationships to really draw people in, but then it ain't a lot of love happening and it ain't a lot of relationships being built. It might be some relating where, people having relations, but I question if relationships are being built. So the first thing I want to say about anything, whether it's speed dating, any kind of speed dating, whether it is social media, including some of the dating sites and or shows like Pop the Balloon or other relationship shows that are out there, the first thing that I usually look at is who is the host? Are they in relationships? And why are they passionate about doing this? Because sometimes you're dealing with people who love black people, who found love, and they are married or in some kind of relationships and they want to share that with others. But most of the time, you're dealing with wave riders who've just decided this is what I'm gonna be on, right? And so this is what I'm going to do to become more popular, to get more views, to do whatever. And they're not necessarily always sensitive to the impact, the real impact that they're having in a public strata where black relationships are one of the top three most important things in life. But as a group, we're actually not winning. So now when you enter into that space, you have to be really qualified to help people win and be moving from a place that's producing that. I'm not always sure that that's what's happening in these dynamics. So what you want to say about that?
I think that that's the case in most dynamics of people activity. Sometimes you can see an end,
Don't like that
and
girlfriend.
you can see a place where you can move your agenda forward, whether that is, especially in this time of social media and independent kind of television, entertainment, news. You might just want to push yourself forward. So you can find a way that's in. And I think that an easy in is relationships because you don't have to necessarily be qualified. You don't have to have proven yourself in anything to enter the relationship conversation. Most adults have had some kind of relationship. Even before you were an adult, you've had your love, your first love. So I think this is a unique space where your personal experience, and we're all going to have one, that's enough of a qualification that you've had a relationship, that you have an opinion, and that the opinion is based on something that's very, very intimate and personal, like your experience. I don't think that there's any other place in the world, and by place I mean area of people activity, where you can enter in because you have a minimal amount of experience. So if you were in finances, I don't think that you could just make a financial podcast or a financial YouTube channel and
I
not
agree.
have proven results. I
I
don't
agree.
think, although we love to see a personal journey, I don't think that you would be a person who's qualified to help someone with their fitness or their health just from your experience, if you're not on the other end of it, right? So a lot of times we're following someone who's on a journey and we're supporting them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're in the position to take the lead. So even if you are saying, "Hey, I'm on a journey," I just told Masha I'm on a journey in fitness in this season, and if I'm documenting it, that's one thing. That's my personal testimony. But I wouldn't be on the beginning of my journey or having gained 50 pounds, or definitely through environment or circumstance or my own doing, hurt my health, and then be on telling other people what to do or in some way hosting them. I think, personal testimony goes far in life. It's something that helps us connect and we empathize. But I think that it's a unique area in the intimate space because we don't really have answers and solutions to our problems in a very concrete, practical way. The empathy and the bonding is enough for us in order for someone to get a following. And I think that the relationship conversation is, as you were saying, it's one of the most important areas of our life. So we want health, but as people living in the United States of America, we know we're doing a lot of things that hurt our health. So I think we want health, we want money, but again, living in the United States, we're trillions of dollars in debt, and most people accept that they're going to move around with a certain amount of debt, right? So this space, the relationship space, is, I think it's just really unique, and I'm fascinated by it because of what we do. And there's a level of study to this that from our perspective as professionals and helping people with their relationships, as someone who's in a marriage, helping myself and helping Montsho with relationships. There's the element of being inside and having the zoom out effect. And so whenever I see something that kind of catches the attention of a lot of people, and I make jokes sometimes, about whatever's happening in pop culture being in the time capsule of this time, right?
Mm.
So, it's definitely, we know when we see some videos and people have a mask on, it was 2020, right? We kind of have these markers of the time period that we're in. And when I see this kind of a thing, like the Pop the Balloon wave that we're on, where multiple people are doing the show, it's a unique thing. It's very indie, like low budget. All you need is a bag of balloons and a toothpick and a microphone, and you're good to go. But I think that those types of things, it speaks to something that we desire, which is love. It speaks to the time that we're in, which is very superficial, right? And at the same time that it's superficial, it's also very, there's a voyeuristic kind of life that we've been living for the last decade to 20 years. But I think now we're like in the depths of it. I believe that we've swung the pendulum almost as far as it can go before people will really want to be off grid and offline and more private, right? So I think in this time of seeing that relationships are the most important thing, we're in a time where You introduce yourself by your Instagram handle. We're living in a time where we're extremely quippy, very comfortable with strangers in an odd way, at the same time that we are less authentic, right? So I think we're used to being watched, you know. We also are craving, longing for love, and not only love but connection, right? The
Right.
basics of connection and attention. And I think that every now and then something comes along that satisfies multiple needs of a generation, and that is going to speak for that. So that idea of going into the time capsule, I definitely think that in a year, 3 years, 5 years, people will be saying, "Remember the pop the balloon shows?" You know, like there's going to be a wave, but it's so. I think it captures the mind of people because it just is this kind of fusion of a lot of things that are happening. But I do think that it's a very unique space to be in, where we want to watch people, we want to watch people connect. We're also wishing for love and connection at the same time, and like living vicariously through the people that we are, the spectators of. And I think that all of that is very, very interesting to me at the same time that we're looking at sometimes a person who's in the thick of it to be the leader. You know, we're not
Right.
even asking. We're not just like, how many followers do you have? Or this potentially went viral, so I'm going to go on it, right? That becomes the qualification for should I be on there? Because now people are traveling to be on. Now people are making their own versions,
Peace, Shahid
maybe
Bey.
like with a
Peace to
different
you,
color
G.
balloon, like
Right.
trying to get your
Yeah, it's
attention.
it's 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 a couple people. They got a gold balloon now. I see this one
I'm
brother.
sure there'll be a black one, a
I
red one.
see there is, Arlette, I think was the first person that I saw. I don't know if she was first because it just
Might have been first
exploded.
viral,
It had just exploded, and they these pop the balloon shows
but I
were
love that she's
everywhere.
first.
But whoever was first, and they know, I don't know, and maybe some of you know because you watch it more than I do. But definitely what I see is that, the first thing that comes to my mind is that um speed dating in general, pop the balloon shows and stuff like that, and even social media. This is one thing that it does, and I'm speaking as a therapist right now. One thing that it does that is very damaging to people is it deludes us about the number of options that we have. So when we're dealing with relationships, nobody really has 30 options. There are no people on earth with 25 options. And this is hard to make people understand because many of us have had sex with 35 and more people. Many of us have 30 or more people in our DMs, right? But there is a low, mid, and high level of attention, and many of us are mistaking the lowest level of attention for the highest level of attention. So we said a couple of weeks ago in the intimate relationship, it's only three things you could be: a mate when a person meets you, a friend with benefits where you're like kind of friendly and kind of cool, but you're having sex, or a sexual conquest. The lion's share of people who are approaching you, whether male or female, without knowing you, they're starting in the bottom level. And most of them stay there. Now, there are some people who are moving off of attraction and their aspiration is high. But for the most part, people who are meeting you on a base level, they're on a base level. And that's just what it is, right? So when you have these shows, you have this kind of like smorgasbord of a bunch of people lined up. They're all different types of people, right? And so somebody walks out, and you literally have heard men and women. I've heard a lot of the men say, I like this person, but I just want to see what's coming next because I think, something else might be better. And so, one of the dynamics that this does to us as a people is it conditions you into the false thinking that it's always something better coming. Well, the most effective relationships are built. So you don't ever find the perfect person. You find the perfect person to build with. Or I should say it like this. You can find the perfect person. You don't find the perfect relationship. You find the perfect person to build a quality relationship with. And that takes some time and that takes some effort. But if in the back of your mind, you're constantly thinking about the reality that something else better is actually back there, something else better is coming, or you're meeting a person in a very unnatural way, which I'm going to get to next, it kind of skews your ability to connect. It even skews your ability to select, because in your mind something better is coming, or in your mind, I don't really know,
And it's
or
very, very fast,
yeah, or
right?
you just conflicted because instead of meeting one person at a time and striving to view them in context, what you're doing is you're meeting one person, and right next to them is another person, and right next to them is another person, and three of them are friends, and then one of them are, it's like this disorienting blowout kind of consciousness where the whole concept is so like overwhelming and oftentimes underwhelming, and it's blowing out your ability to filter properly what you're even
It
looking at.
could be a good thing if the idea is I'm really going to a place where people want love, right? And relationships, and where people are available and qualified, right? If those things were happening, it'd be great, because if you think about where you used to meet people, you used to meet potentially 10 people, 15 people, 20 people when you're going out, when you're at events, when you're in school, right? A lot of the times where you would meet someone in your teens, 20s, you're going to be in some type of a community. And you don't always know that everyone's interested. You don't always know that everyone's available.
Yeah,
And you
but you
don't
ain't
know.
meeting people that's trying to find love. Like you're not
But that's what I'm
meeting people
saying.
under that
If
context.
it was the context of this is an in person, because I also think that people are craving to be in person. So what was online dating maybe a decade ago, 5 years ago, right? This is a way of you're taking that element of the most superficial thing, but then putting it back on in person. If you really could say there are going to be 10 women here who are available, who are within my age group, and I can come in and see if I see one that's attractive, or there are 10 men here who are available and interested, and I can come and see who's attractive and then potentially have a conversation with them afterwards. I think that if the intention was at a higher vibration, then it could be a great thing, because what you're actually able to do is, because of some third neutral thing, you would potentially be able to not completely vet but weed out people who are not necessarily interested. But what I saw, I've seen a handful. I've actually, and this might have been in the beginning when the people weren't really applying, I've seen a couple people be on the show more than once, right? So, and I'm
Yeah,
saying as a not as the person who's looking, saying that
yeah.
none of these matches happen, but as the person who's saying I'm available, right? And I think it reminds me of the like celebrity find love shows that were out a couple decades ago,
In the
like the
70s.
reality shows. No, not even those.
Oh,
Like
like the
behind the
flavor of
curtain.
love.
Yeah, like that. Like where everyone's not really interested in love. Everyone was interested in being a model. Everyone was interested in getting their music out,
Yeah,
right?
it's clout
And
chasing.
you were actually learned about the show through your manager. Like that's what it really reminds me of. So it doesn't remind me of the premise behind the show is not authentic. And I think that that's what the challenge is. So it would be great if you meet someone. And I believe that someone's going to meet a partner that way, because people meet in the most random kinds of situations and still find love, find a husband, wife, soulmate, right? Because there is an element of destiny where
Well,
someone's going to actually meet and make a great match and be the thing that comes out of this. But I also think that because the premise is a little superficial, that of course it draws. And I think what I saw it go viral for was also a little superficial. So then once something gets a certain kind of attention, and what that attention point is, it tends to reproduce that element, right? So wherever you are seeing something, and whatever the vibration is that goes viral, that gets the most attention, it's almost it's reproducing at that frequency. So because there's a little bit of I think it was the sassiness and the ability to like read someone, and kind of be like embarrassing and a little bit rude.
yeah,
I think that because that is the couple of things that went viral, it's like, here's another thing that's in this time capsule of this time, because I think, like, as you're saying, there's levels. There's these three levels. You're asking the questions at the most superficial level because that's the premise. If you were asking questions at the highest level, even of your participants, right, then you would say, hey, these are 10 people who are looking for a relationship, and the attraction is very important. So when the person comes out, you're seeing if you're attracted to them or not, and then you actually have some questions to move forward. And this has been, like you're saying, there were dating shows in the 70s where
Right.
you were like behind a curtain or behind a wall, and someone
Right.
couldn't see you, and you were
The
basing things on
the
answers to the question.
when
Now
I
that you
was a
can
young
see
man,
the
it
person.
was the show The Dating Game. Then they had celebrity matches
I
and all of
remember the
that.
one that was like you go out on a date and the people talk about it on the show, and then they ask if you want a second date or not. I
They
remember
had a
seeing stuff
hell
like that.
date. They had blind date. The reason I don't think that the reason I disagree with you, and I don't think that they will become some people will mate,
I think someone is.
because you know why? These shows have been out for essentially about 40, 50 years, from um um the Dating Game back in the day, where it was three contestants and one woman or one man, all the way up to the era of the Flavor of Love and Rock of Love and all of them. Even shows like The Bachelor, and the overwhelming majority of people are not finding relationships.
I believe
And
the
when you
majority
when
doesn't.
you find so what happens is, when these kind of things start, if people get married or they hook up initially, then that becomes the trend,
It tends to, yeah.
and
You're trying to
then
say that's the
people
success
follows.
measure,
Yeah.
right?
But if it starts out where somebody got a deal, or they sold more products or whatever, that becomes the trend.
And that's why I
And
think people lead with their business.
that's what's happening. People are clout chasing for attention or for sales of something. And now, like you said, your manager is telling you, we have seen repeatedly on The Bachelor and other shows, people are actually on the show and they're married.
That's why I'm saying
People are
everyone's not available. Everyone's not even actually interested. People are more interested in, if I can go and say something quickly and get an extra 20,000 followers and make some sales, or turn this into a brand deal, or, so I've seen people selling a product. I've seen people making t-shirts. I've seen people using their name to then show up at appearances, right? So this is all really about money or clout
it's clout.
under the guise of love. And that's what I think cheapens the idea. Now,
Yeah,
you can
and
meet somebody anywhere. It could be the cameraman that you meet. It could be anyone on the way to the event, on the way back, because of, destiny, right? How you were just supposed to be in a place at a certain time. But I think the premise again, and it's that under this guise of we've got a match, right? And it's a match of what?
right, because what's happening on the Pop the Balloon shows, we say we got a match, and then you hear right in it, like 10 minutes later, we got into an argument. And so we never even, what we're seeing now,
You don't even get to come back and talk about your date.
Not even that. You don't even go on a date.
Right.
Like so you went through insults and all kind of stuff. Then you go back. You don't go on a date. You get into a fight in the back. You don't even know each other, right? And so now what's happening is, the trend is, you have, I think, a clout tracing trend on the outside of your media followings, or if you have a business, everybody comes on here has some kind of business, so they say.
And 5 commas in their job
yeah,
title.
and I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a that, and a this, and a that. No, it's not fine, because we still got 1% of the wealth like we had in slavery. So even with the millionaires and billionaires, we're not growing, and most of the people are not really skilled in the business aspect of whatever it is they're doing. They have a passion project, which is cool. I'm not even mad at that. I love entrepreneurial spirit, but you're multi-passionate, and we can't even vet any of that stuff. Okay. So you're just on there saying, and sometimes I can see in the hesitation of what people are saying, they're talking aspirationally.
Right.
instead of actually operationally. Like,
But I think
I want to be this and I
the younger
want to
you
do
are,
that.
you speak that way anyway.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
think
you're
that.
at
I
the
think that.
beginning of
I
your
think that.
adulthood.
I
If
think
you're a
that.
person
That's
who's
absolutely
22,
true.
23, you are speaking very aspirationally. You do
Yeah.
have multiple things going on.
But the
waiting for
question
something to
is,
hit.
what do you do for a living? What do you do for money? Not what would you like to be
And
when
you know how
you
people
grow
are.
up
If you've
more.
been paid one time for something, it's in your bio.
Then you're a professional. If
Right. So
you've
you're
been
like, I'm a
paid, that's
model,
real. That's
actress,
real.
comedian,
That's real.
and a medical technician. You know,
Yeah,
like you're
that's
counting
real.
all the things that you get paid for,
That's
right?
real. That's
So
real. So if you are getting paid, you are a professional, and I don't begrudge you for saying that, even if you have more aspiration than you have experience. But I'm just saying that on that point, it's a lot of misrepresentation. But the thing that I think we already have a generation of people whose studies are showing we can't focus because of the overstimulation and titillation that we're receiving from social media and being on 85 apps and smartphones and all of this. So I literally saw in Ewing Township the other day, in the middle of the night, two young, beautiful girls were walking across a busy street. One was looking at the back of her friend, and the other one was on the phone. Cars were coming, and they had on dark clothing. So the only way you could see them, because I saw like something moving in front of the car lights, but I couldn't see them. A person stopped and was blessing them out, saying, "Hey, listen, y'all about to get killed out here. You're walking across the street on the phone." The girl in the back started arguing with the people. The girl who was on the phone never lifted her head up. She just kept walking on the phone, and they walked right across the street. And they looked like they was about 17, 18, beautiful young girls. So I'm just saying that we have a culture of distraction, and then you bring in people out and you're like, "Hey, what about her? What about him? What about her? What about him? What about her? What about," and these people don't actually like you. Now, what I think is sad about it, now again, this is the therapist and us talking. What is sad about it is this is what we know. Everybody wants a real relationship. And if this stuff becomes the norm of how we're even investigating, then what will happen? I think if there were a positive pressure for more of us that are married, for more of us that have the good intentions and the skill, we would create a new kind of show. It's okay that people are creating shows. I'm not hating on that. And I think it's cool for people to have shows where we can talk about dynamics in relationship. But I'm asking the public out there, what's a good show about relationship? Because it's sure it's not these fine to pop the balloon shows. What is something that's healthy?
You know what I think?
And that's helping us as a group?
A lot of times people don't like those shows. I've seen some shows come out.
What shows? They don't like
They
what
don't
shows?
like shows that are about qualifications, about the effort. I've seen shows about counseling. I've seen shows about, this kind of getting ready for something. So whether it's like
what?
makeover show and you're ready
I've never
for,
seen a show like what I'm talking about.
I'm saying that I have seen shows where the person who was not the host but the lead was a counselor. I've seen those shows. I've seen those shows.
Like what?
I don't know the name of it. I'll have to look it up. But I've seen shows where people are talking to a couple, where people are talking about effort, work, the need to make change, and those things that I think are sometimes the more real parts of reality TV. They're not as sensational as something like Pop the Balloon, where you don't know someone, or where the element that is the thing that gets the most attention is the conflict or the tension, rather than a genuine match. Like you said, whatever it is that goes viral or gets popular, that's going to be what other people reproduce or attempt to reproduce or attempt to have more sensational, because the purpose is to have your views be up, not necessarily to make the matches. So I think that, we do have to have a kind
I've never seen a show like that.
I have. I'll have to look some up.
Yeah, the closest thing I've seen to a real conversation about a couple is the Black Love show that Oprah Winfrey did. That's the only one I've ever seen in the history of my life.
And that was more of a documentary.
Yeah,
right?
I've never seen a show that is about how we get together or what's the best things to do to prepare. I think if the right person did a show.
Do you remember that show that we were watching that was British? That was one of them where they had couples come and sit on the couch and they were talking to
Yeah,
them.
that's still like that's still in the vein. That show came out after Oprah show.
I'm not
I
saying it didn't. I'm saying it's
I
one of
think,
them.
but that was in the vein of relationships are going wrong. What I'm talking about is the healthy preparation for a relationship.
Yeah, but because that is not most people's reality, the person who's making a reality TV show is not the counselor who is aiming to prevent an issue. It is the person who's saying, "This is my experience, and I'm about to just turn the camera on." And I think that more people, whether it's people like us who have, analyzed something, bridged a gap between some things that are in pop culture, and also offered, one-to-one and group coaching, it's going to be for people to collaborate in order to offer something that's holistic. The person who is just standing up in their one element or their one area of people activity is not going to necessarily be holistic. And that's why everybody needs community. Everybody has a family, everybody has a team.
Yeah,
You need to be able to collaborate, whether it's the people who've been married for a while, the people who want to be married, the people who, counsel married couples, the people who aim to prepare them. Those people are going to have to form an actual team to be able to see what is the gap in all of our perception before you just turn around and turn your camera on.
well, I think if you pitch the right thing, like we had, as you know, we had an opportunity to work with Magic Johnson's network, the Aspire network, and we were in talks with something potentially with BET, but we had a concept of a show called The Love Train, and it was like a play on words with training in your love relationships, but also just get on board of the love train like the OJs, right? And so we were talking about a concept and dwindling around, and things didn't work out with Aspire, that had more teeth in it. You may have seen us on a commercial, Aspire network, or they came out to our house and interviewed us and all of that. um the BET thing was less meat to it. It didn't pop off. But the point is that I think if somebody with the more sincere intentions, like, I don't believe that black people will only find attention in titillation and sensationalism. I think we're doing that because that's all that's being offered. And like, I challenge anybody, name me an alternative show. And the fact that we can't really name one proves what I'm saying. You got here a bunch of people want to be in relationship. Everybody does for the most part. It's only a very small few of us who are saying on the other side of widow or whatever, I don't want a relationship at all. So the overwhelming majority of us want relationships. If there was something that was out here in the strata that was able to produce what we want, there would be a study of diet that of people who really want that thing coming to it. But I think what is happening is, back in the day, it was network producers. They were capitalizing on people's needs. Now today, it's individual clout chasers that really just want their social media or their business product or whatever to rise, are capitalizing on something. And it is like, the basic thing is, does the host have, or does the person who we're talking to actually have what it is that I'm looking for? Most of the time, the answer is no. So it is an exploitation of a desire. And now it's been happening so long, people are starting to say, well, we wouldn't really respond to something else. Well, yes, we would, because we actually have the desire. If somebody had a show that they were able to show that they were able to put people together and produce quality relationships, I think there will be a lot. It might not be as much people that want to see a world star incident or a sensational incident, but there would be a healthy enough people that you could come to that and you could find
Well, this
relationships.
is the
If we
place to
look
do
at,
it, is in independent media,
yeah,
because
if we look at Kevin Samuels, if we look at Pop the Balloon, if we looked at all of this stuff, these people are not producing relationships on a large level. Now, Kevin would say that he did put people together, and I don't begrudge them that. I talk to them, so I don't. I'm not saying that that's not true, but I'm saying if you talk to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, and you got together 8 or 7, whatever it was he was saying, your percentages are not that good. And so what I'm saying is these kind of shows, what they're actually doing is for a new generation, they're polarizing them, they're scaring them, and they're helping them lose hope in the ability to come together.
I've heard multiple people, and again, I've only seen like a handful of episodes, but I've heard multiple people say we're having a hard time in our generation. So I've heard people make reference to
right,
that as they're there, like, well, in this generation, blah 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 blah. And in our generation, this is what's hard right now for us, which is why they're there. And I think that that's an element of the truth.
yeah, I
So I
do think
think
that's
just like
honest.
anything else, outside of the relationship conversation, what we're getting in media is slanted. I do think this is the best time, though, that I have ever seen in my life for independent media. The fact that you can
Yeah,
put
yeah,
something out
absolutely.
on TikTok
Yeah,
or YouTube
absolutely.
and get up to 1 million or 2 million followers, that was unheard of, even in the beginning of social media, right? So this
Right,
idea that you can produce, hence why they even say like the beginning of YouTube was it's you television. That's why they had their name. Whatever you want to put on, you can have your own channel. Like
right.
that aspect of coming from TV to being that's what the tube used to be, right? So now you have a YouTube. I think this is the perfect place to do that. And so this is what people need to be able to do to filter through the hundreds of millions. And this is just the United States, but the hundreds of millions, the billion, right, that might have access and be interested in you in the world or speak your same language. It is time for us to be able to say, this is what I want to have out there, and that I can go into production with like me by myself or me and a friend and I'm
Right,
instantly in production.
right.
This is the first time that that is able to happen with such ease. And I think that, like, I believe this is a time where people are swinging the pendulum in another direction and that we will find some balance. But it is things like this that I find very interesting. I do think that some people are going to be jaded,
Avatars
right? And a
and
little bit it's going to magnify problems, you know what I mean, which tends to happen because again that whole idea of a hit dog
Will
will
Holler.
holler,
Hmm.
this idea of what was resonating with a pain point. We're in a time of extreme pain,
Right.
so what resonates with a pain point seems very prevalent, right? What resonates with your aspirational self seems too distant. And I think that this is just something that happens in many kinds of media. It happens in music, right? There's tons of great artists, but when you name things that are the biggest things, it's not necessarily about them being the best artists. It's not necessarily about them being hopeful or right or
But
any
that
of
that
those things. Sometimes the thing that gets popular is based on conflict. It's based on a pain point. It's based on a beef. It's based on something that is speaking to the pain point. And I think that this is something, this, although it's reality TV, although it's relationships, it falls under this kind of weird, under the weird umbrella of entertainment. And I think that our entertainment right now is at a low vibration in a
yeah,
lot of
I think
categories
so.
of
I think
movie, of
so. I think
television.
so.
You can't point to a lot of areas of entertainment and find great models for Black love and Black love culture, whether that's film, television, music, or this kind of independent entertainment, which is on the internet and on YouTube.
I would
So,
agree. I would agree. I think the damage that's being done is it's deluding people around the real possibility of options. Most people in their life, we talked about this last night in the live Black Love School Q&A. Um, most people are going to get 3 chances at love in their lifetime. That's the overwhelming majority. You know, if they don't make one of those, like those 3 chances work, you actually don't get 30 chances like social media claims, like the people in your DM claim, like people are saying you get 3, and that's the average. Some people are very below average. Very, 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 very few are the Elizabeth Taylors of the world where you're going to be married 9 times and stuff like that. That's not the reality of most people. And that includes celebrities. Most celebrities are only getting 3 real chances at love, right? Um, you can have a multitude of sex partners, but that drains your spiritual energy, and it impedes your ability to actually connect with somebody emotionally. So we'll be talking about that in the new Black Love School class, the promiscuity paradox, and how that works against you. But when you come on these kind of shows, or even if you do speed dating, I used to see back in the late 80s going into the early 90s, the churches were doing speed dating. And I was like, what kind of church is doing speed dating? Like, why would you do speed dating? What is that? What is it? And I think what it is, again, people are exploiting a need. People who are really unqualified see that there's a need because maybe people are talking about they want to mate or whatever. And so instead of people who got the skill, yeah, instead of people who got the skill, of course, now, I'm no longer Christian, but of course, I'm not attacking Christianity, but and some people did have like singles ministry and extravaganzas and galas, which is more appropriate, right? Where married people are present as single people interact. That's more appropriate. But to have speed dating, as I've seen in some churches, I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like, what is the purpose of speed dating? Because you can't vet somebody in 20 minutes or 15 minutes. Okay, we all move off of some level of attraction, so that's okay. But look, you're attracted to what you're attracted to wherever you meet it. So whether you do it in the most appropriate settings or inappropriate settings, you're not going to become attracted to something you're not attracted to. So that part is the base level of the magnetism. But I just think that these kind of the speed dating, the even some of these dating sites, if it's not really a paid site where it's more elevated and you have to really get there,
like swipe left, swipe
yeah, it's swipe. You like, oh no, not her, not him, not this one, not this one. Yeah, that show was called Blue Therapy. That's what it was called.
That I was thinking of. I was
Yeah,
another one,
yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Yeah. But that was that Blue Therapy over in England. That's what it was called. And the problem with those shows is two things. And now we're both two clinical therapists. The problem with those shows is you don't really show you if you're going to do a therapy show, right? Which I think has potential to sell. You got to show the people who are successful in therapy. And most of the therapists on those shows are weak. Like all you're going to get is rational emotive and cognitive behavioral therapy, rational emotive behavioral therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy. You ain't teaching nobody no skills on them shows. So what you're just doing is letting people talk their heart out, and you feel better when you get it out. Sometimes, and you are
some of those people that had a problem and ended up, I think the demonstration of their problem and the way that the people who are strangers took it hurt their relationship.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So this is what I'm saying.
Serious problems, but putting it out there.
But listen,
and then like some people who you don't know are in your DMs and taking sides.
And making, but listen, examples out of this is what the problem of therapy is in general. I train therapists. I am a therapist. This is what the problem is. The modern therapy, Black people, and I'm specifically talking to Black people, all respect to anyone else, but I'm most concerned about our people finding love and finding the skills to build relationship. All you young therapists that's coming out, you got your masters, you're opening up firms, you're doing third party billing, you swiping those insurance cards or whatever, or you're self-pay like us and you're doing innovative stuff. You're reaching people around the world. Very few of us are doing that because in order to reach people around the world, you got to lead with culture. And a lot of us don't have a cultural model. But the point is, I'm saying this, you have to give people skills. That's our niche. That's what we focus on. Relationship skills. We have the Super 7 Akoma soulmate skills. life and love purpose, conscious courting, whether you're single or mated, 3D communication, harmonizing styles, intimacy and sex, resolving conflict, and building a power couple love legacy. If you can become proficient in those main 7 skills, there are a group of micro skills under those major skills that will help you have a fulfilling and full relationship. If you just go to therapy and talk, if you argue with the referee, which is what it is at best is talking, at worst is arguing with a referee, and you don't really have any skills to take back to your life when you're not in therapy. So eventually on all them shows, there's an episode where somebody blows up, leaves the room, doesn't come back, and either we hear that let's move on to another couple, or this couple unfortunately was not able to get over their thing, and they couldn't resolve conflict. They have no conflict resolution skills. So now when the conflict comes up, the therapist can't even take you. So we have a mass exodus of Black people going into therapy, and we've been saying for 10 years there's about to be a mass exodus out of therapy because Black people want results. You know what I mean? All people want results. Can you produce an environment that has healthy relationships? If you can, I'm with that. If you can't, I'm not with that. And even on these find the like Pop the Balloon or Find Love or speed dating shows, now what we're starting to see happen is people take a liberty to go into your life. They call your job, like we just saw with this last person. People are claiming they're getting fired and stuff like this. Mark my words, there's going to be a liability case happen where somebody's going to sue somebody, or even worse, somebody's going to hurt somebody because you did something.
You're probably signing a release to be on the show.
Yeah, but
to get rid of that liability. But what happens that you can't sign a release for is the personal stuff.
Yeah, you can't sign a release for what happens 2 months later, because all you like, we can be extra petty. Yeah. All you got to do, if I'm on a show and I'm dating you and you say something that embarrasses me or hurts my feelings, or because I chose the girl who you think actually looks better than you and you thought I was whack, but she liked me and her left, and I snubbed my nose to you. You follow my life, call my job, get me fired, right? I call my 3 girl cousins and say, whoop her ass. And now you get banged up, beat up, broken bones, whatever. And then through investigation, it traces back that is to me. These shows are going to have a liability. I'm telling you, because the shows have to, and I don't will that on any of our people. I don't will that at all. I've dealt with a lot of people with domestic violence, but that's the point, Nwasha. We're fragile.
Like we know in this time, people are getting hurt. Like over the last couple of years, people have been hurt getting a Stanley Cup, getting a Popeye sandwich. Like people have been killed.
People got killed when the chicken sandwich was free. Yeah.
So we're just at a really fragile time, and I think that this is also a very fragile space. So one of the things about the relationship space is that there's a lot of unspoken expectations and unconscious expectations. So not even is it not said to the other person, it's sometimes not really known to the person who even is holding the expectation. And when you're dealing with people who are fragile and who are being attacked, this relationship challenges are typically very old. This is what you know when you go to counseling. Normally, people tell us they've talked about their childhood. And we know that one of the reasons that happens is because it's in your childhood that you're setting up your belief systems and affirming your values. You're definitely inheriting them from your parents at that time and your community, right? But also you're affirming them and making decisions. And that's the thing that you then start to build your expectations on. So a lot of people will say, yeah, well, I know I have these relationship wounds, mother wounds, father wounds. I didn't see good examples. But what happens a lot of times is you're stuck there. So in indigenous culture and indigenous, science and art of the mind, you would be able to help someone get past points where they've been like arrested, right? So if something has happened, it's going to be for your rite of passage, through your cultural training, that you say, yes, this thing did happen and there's some divine purpose in it, or it wouldn't be happening at all. and we can help you catch up in a way or move through and be where you're really supposed to be. But a lot of times, no matter what the age, people, when it comes to relationships, can have something about them that is immature, undeveloped, underdeveloped, right? And I think that this is what these types of things really demonstrate.
Yeah.
But when a lot of people, and definitely the nation and multiple generations are traumatized and unhealed, so still fragile, and you put all of those people together, it is bound to be something that does more harm than good.
Yeah, I think you know, the intention is skewed, and even the hosts, because they're regular people, they're not necessarily relationship people, but they're regular people who are clout chasing. Their intentions are off, and they are creating an environment where anything can go. That's number one. I think when the people come in, they're extremely sensitive, so you can see it. You know, as long as we are, pseudo respectful, we cool. But as soon as it goes left, you see the monster come out of everybody. Well, then you look like whatever, and you did it, and then it's like, who wants to come on a national platform and be insulted because of the shape of their nose or whatever? Nobody's really beat for that. And so these are the things that become the most viral. So I know our people. So what we do is, now you got your couple canned responses. We even see this in politics, where the white woman snapped at the sister, and then she was like, bad built body, but and then that just went crazy.
It's a linguistic dynamic
Alliteration,
that Black people have.
I love that kind of stuff. But in when it was cross cultural like that, that's one thing, intercultural. But when it's intracultural, I just think that we're doing damage, right? We're already at a place where we all want love, we all want to be loved, we all want relationships, we all deserve them. Very few of us are skilled enough to create them. So we're kind of bumping into each other like these bumping cars in the night. And as soon as we get offended, we get the most vitriol from each other that we could possibly have. You can see on these shows, the hosts are not really prepared to deal with that. Yeah. You could go back to Flavor of Love, when them girls was ready to kick each other's ass. You got the cameraman that's going to try to stop or break up the fight, because you didn't even prepare for what actually happens if a battle royale happens here. And on one of them shows, I can't remember, it was somebody actually got assaulted on one of these like charm schools, or I think it was the show where they had a bunch of mothers and a bunch of daughters.
Oh, yeah, but that's some of those shows like Bad Girls Club. I think like this environment, this is the children and grandchildren of those TV shows. So right. This is why I'm saying that once you find something that is going to sell and get you whatever, your advertising money is what it was when it was on network TV. Now it's similar. You're able to branch off in some way, sell your merch, do whatever it is. You keep reproducing more and more chaos. So it used to be a time that people might get in someone's face on TV, especially reality shows, talk shows. But then it became a time where you're really going to get assaulted. Then it became a time where we're going to pick the people who are most likely to fight and who are a little fragile and unhinged, right?
Yeah.
And then we're going to put that on television and try to have it be from day one. Then it was little stuff like everybody has a cell phone, and now it's World Star. And rather than break something up, rather than intervene, you're going to just record it because you want your video to have the most shares, right? And you're actually trying to advertise to get into the space where your video gets shown to millions of people because it is a fight, right? Because someone's hair is getting pulled out, because someone's top got ripped off, right? So we're in a time where a couple of generations of that, people might not remember some of those shows, but this is the culture that you
Flavor of Love was 05, right?
Yeah, so I mean, that's like 20 years, right? Yeah. So like if you are a person who's on a show and you're 25, you don't really remember that show. But the shows that came after that, the shows that show that you should fight, the shows that show no conversation, the shows that show This is how you even elevated. And I hate to say it, but like you came in on a place that's very low vibration, but for you, it pivoted into six figures, or for you, and this is not the norm, but it becomes again this kind of one example of, oh, well, this person was able to, and then
Yeah,
that's
but
what you're
yeah.
aspiring to.
Everybody thinks they're the exception and not the norm when it comes to relationship, when it comes to success. I don't begrudge anybody, and I don't tell anybody not to pursue their dreams. That's
Right.
what we've done.
But some of these things are
So
not your dreams.
some of this stuff is not your dreams. It's just
It's
you're wave chasing, you're wave riding, you're clout
you think
chasing
maybe this is the means
to
to
an
the
end,
dream,
right?
but
Like
it's not.
it's not like, you know, we're clinical therapists. We both got master's degrees. We both got cultural initiation. You don't got to be that to be a relationship host, but you got to be in a relationship. Like you can't not be in a relationship talking about I'm trying to help people be in a
At least
relationship.
partner with a person who's in a relationship,
Yeah,
right?
like, because what then is your skill? Sometimes the people hosting shows or on YouTube even, they're actually just this is a indirect way for them to find who they're looking for in relationships. If I exploit the concept that everybody wants to talk about relationship, if I keep doing that, maybe I'll find the right one. And I think the exploitation of our people, unfortunately, many of us are willing to do that at a moment's notice. That's a problem. The context of these shows is a problem. The delusion of having choice, more choices than a human being actually has, is the problem. When you're meeting a group of people who claim to want to marry you or connect, and they looking for, we in exchanges with people like, I want children, you want children, okay, we can have a son and a daughter. What that's going to end up as you having sex in the back of the car when we get out in the parking lot. But then we're not really going to be talking to each other. We're not really going to be connecting. And so the actual dating shows are becoming the new hookup culture. The hookup culture is when we're just coming together to have sex, right? And so we hook up based off of a basic attraction, and then we're left with the psychological emotional residue of that, and it's devastating to us, and we don't really figure that out until we're in a stage of life where we can't even hook up as freely, because that's really only your late teens, if you start early, to your mid 30s. After that, you can't even, there isn't even a space with people over 35 or whatever. I'm not saying you can't have casual sex over 35, you certainly can, but the socially acceptable, I'm going to meet 20 people tonight, is gone. You're meeting people do it because you can't be 35 plus roaming around clubs with 24-year-olds or 25-year-olds. So where do you go? Now, for some people, it's the gym. For some people, it's the church. For some people, it's whatever, because all of those places are hookup places too. And people say, oh, you in the church? Let's hook up. Let's have sex. Oh, you in the gym and you care about your body? Let's hook up. Let's have sex. But the older you get, because most people are going to live to about 80 years old. So if you say half of your life from 40 on, there really isn't a 40 plus hookup culture. Now it's the business world, it's politics for some. So all of these subdivisions of our culture have that dynamic to them. But the older you get and the older you get, the more realistic it is that it's not 30 people at a time. It may be a couple of people a year, and you can rack up some numbers, if you're doing that as a man or a woman. But I think the ultimate impact, we are now at 8 out of 10 of us are unmated. We are really afraid of like being in relationships. We have a hard time trusting. Very few of us have any real skill when it comes to making a relationship work. And so now the desire to have some kind of savior or some kind of connection is at an all-time high. And what a lot of people are coming out up with is a new speed dating show. I remember the show. Remember the show we used to watch sometimes? It was the Millionaire Matchmaker.
Yeah,
The white girl who was taking millionaire men and preparing women And sometimes she did women who were looking for men and striving to match them. The reason I watched that show is for one reason. I thought that the host was very sincere.
Mhm.
I thought that
Yeah,
she
she was a
she
Jewish woman.
yeah
She believed
she
in soul mating,
yeah
which
she
is
used to
called what,
say
the shirts or
oftentimes,
something
yeah,
in that culture. And she
she
also really wanted people to win. So her thing was, I want to get some wedding invitations. That ultimately that was her goal.
right,
So when she was giving her advice and making recommendations, it was off of decades, maybe 15. She said 10 to
yeah,
15 years
yeah,
experience.
yeah,
So when she was saying, you don't look attractive, do you want the haircut or not? You don't have to stay here. Like her, it was, I think, about her reputation,
right,
and that some of that may have come off, especially as a reality show, a little bit sensational. But her ultimate goal was for her client to be very satisfied. So she was running a real business that was then sensationalized for reality TV. It was not the I'm just doing reality TV. So I think she wanted to maintain her reputation. She wanted to maintain her clients, maintain the referrals. So you still have to have success at the end. And that's what makes something like that a little bit different.
but I remember her oftentimes saying that, a couple people asked her on her show, what are you looking for? And she was like, I'm absolutely looking to get married, and if I found a man who married me and he didn't want me to do this, I wouldn't do it. She
Mhm.
was like, I would leave this
Yeah, she seemed to
for
be. She said every other show, I'm a believer in love. I
yeah,
think people
yeah.
can
So
find
I
their
thought
soulmate.
I saw her cry several times. And I
Whatever
think,
happened to her.
I'm not comparing it racially because I really don't care about the dynamics of European culture like that. But that's very different than, so Mantra, what you don't like about Nawasha?
Right, and I think that
Like
that's harsh too.
what
Yeah,
about her face you don't like?
because sometimes even
Like,
when people are aiming to bow out gracefully,
yeah,
the
there
host is
is a
pushing.
poking of like,
Yeah,
so what do you mean? What do
yeah.
you
It's like,
mean?
no, I just
It's like,
told you
oh no,
something.
no, I don't, well, what exactly you
And
don't
then it's
like?
like, is it the height? Is
Is
it
it the
this?
height?
Is it?
So, and I think that
That's a
kind of stuff
little.
stirs the pot in a way that's harmful to us as a group. And now,
So we'll see how this
we
plays
all
out.
have a certain level of insecurity or thing about how we look. Everybody does. It's something about you and how you look that you don't like, and you don't want unnecessary attention to it, especially from the outside world, because now you got to coexist in that world after this moment. And if it goes viral that look at your toes or whatever it is, right? I just saw one the other day where the sister was like, the guy was like, I think you're beautiful, you got nice toes or whatever. And then the camera zoomed in on her toes. She was like, oh my God, you're going to show the world my toes. So I'm just like, I'm looking at this, and the young generation, I know they're different than us and they have every right to be who they are, as an extension of us, but with the uniqueness of their generation. But I'm saying at the end of the day, we have to look at what this stuff produces. Are more people finding love? Are more people learning how to vet? Are more people learning how to select? Are more people becoming more interested and more open to the idea? Or is it more insults? Is it more sensational moments where we embarrass each other? Is it less connecting? Even the people who are connecting, when they do now with our Let's Show, um, find love or pop the balloon, I've watched 11 of them, so I've watched a lot of them, right? And they're long. They're like, sometimes I'm like, this is a waste of my life that I'm watching this shit. Like they're like an hour, 2 hours sometimes, and I'm watching these things go by, and I'm like, wow, we look horrible.
Mm.
The young ladies are
But
dressing
see, that's
like,
why it would be great to have someone help you out with.
yeah, the young ladies are dressing whorish. The men are like horrible. Like there, it's getting a little better. Some of them, I think she's gotten some feedback, but dudes are coming on here. They sagging, they looking crazy. They, and dudes are on there like, yeah, I was just high. You know what I mean? Like it's deplorable. You know what I mean? And you know, in respect to anybody that smokes, I don't smoke, never have smoked, or drank, but it ain't no, you know what I mean? Like, you know, if that's what you do, still in the presentation, you can't do that. People say, oh, Montsho is legal now. You don't go to your job saying that. Hey, I just came into work. I just got fucked up. You don't do that on your job. You don't do that anywhere where you respect the environment and it's not about you. But when it comes to these kind of relationship shows, now it instantly only becomes about you, and your defense mechanism is either deflection or projection attack. And then the host stirs the pot to say, well, what, you know, go in a little bit more and talk about why you don't like this. And I just think it fuels hookup culture where we can have casual sex because so many young people are telling me it doesn't matter anyway, and nobody's getting married. So I'm either going to not have sex. And when I look at somebody like Venus Williams, who's 10 years younger than me, is a virgin, right? And been a virgin for 40 plus years of her life just because of this same thing. You know what I mean? And so, and she's a celebrity. So, and it's a lot of celebrities. I just seen Lenny Kravitz say he's been celibate for 9 years. You know what I mean? After you done ran through all them white girls and all of that stuff, you probably done got like 1,000 diseases. But you know, I think these things are not helping us, y'all. I think, you know, there's other ways we could find entertainment. And I believe, just like you're saying you believe a hookup will, I mean, a real relationship will happen on them shows.
I think that there's the potential for a relationship to actually happen because I do believe that people meet in the most random ways and in this kind of by chance way outside of initiation. So I know, like, we met at a car wash, right? People meet at the
Yeah,
supermarket
but I was looking
line.
for marriage.
What I'm saying is potentially, I have seen some of the episodes where people make reference to their parents or make reference to, you know, and I believe where some people are ready or almost ready, and that someone will consider it the same way that people have actually gotten married off of dating sites. Some people have actually gotten married when met their wife out at a club. It is not the norm by any measure, but I do believe that anytime people are coming together with love as the goal, I believe that it's possible. Now, I'm not saying that any of those people who've already been on there have made a great match, but I'm saying that the potential to say, even if it is in the pendulum swing back, where a person says, I really want people who are vetted. My silver pop the balloon show is going to be people who fill in the blank, right? I've now seen a group of older people go on the show who are in their 30s or their 40s. Like, so what I know is once a thing catches the minds of the people, it becomes more expansive and it grows, right? So there's a greater potential for people to maybe take it more seriously, for people to maybe consider vetting in a different way, for people to maybe give the people the questions. I'm saying that there's just the potential there for someone to actually make a match because that potential exists everywhere and anywhere. So that's what I'm saying.
There is a double standard in the man culture. In us as men, we're usually leading the relationship into we pick. And this is why we're doing 2 new classes in the Black Love School membership. I see somebody talking about, Shahid is talking about the STD and pandemic in Houston. We have a new class in the Black Love School that's coming in a few weeks called No STDs. And it's really about spiritually transmitted diseases as well as sexually transmitted diseases, because the sexually transmitted disease is a physical manifestation of a spiritual disease, right? So we're going to make that connection. We also have a class called the promiscuity paradox that's actually up next. It'll be out Monday in the membership. So we'll put the link here for you to investigate the Black Love School membership. It's pennies a day. Get in there and join with this international community of singles and couples as we talk about Black love culture. But I just think for men, this is what I know. If you go on these shows one time, the way we now this is I'm giving this message to men and women, but the psychology of a lot of men is like this. If you come on the show multiple times, men won't, as a woman, a man won't respect you, because why are you coming to this platform looking for a serious relationship? So you are either clout chasing, you're a gold digger. They're going to put some kind of label on you. If you go on there one time and you get with a man, men who see you, date you, who pursue you, they're going to instantly want to know what's your sexual history in connection to this show, right? And then, unfortunately, men go on the show, and the double standard of they not really going to lose a lot of value. Women go on these shows, you're losing value. So if you don't go on these shows and find a match, you shouldn't ever go back on any of these kind of shows, because soon as you show up twice, like the episode we just saw, where the woman was like, I was shooting my shot and da-da-da-da. This is the one where the guy picked who I thought was the most beautiful girl in the history of this show. She was like the best girl. And I think a lot of the other girls who thought the dude was brash and horrible, they got angry, because I think everybody thought this girl was one of the best, if not the best. I personally thought she was the best of the history of the show. The guy, what was his name again? What was his Instagram handle you told me? I can't remember it. But he was the one like, oh, you got hair on your arms, if y'all saw that. Or he was like, you know, oh man, I see somebody saying Kendra G, Cosmic Energy. Kendra G's dating show on IG has some successful marriages, and that's good for Kendra, but Kendra ain't married. So this is what I'm saying, right? This is what I'm saying. When you're actually married, right, you actually know some of the inner workings of being married. Now, if Kendra G is crafting a show that's more elevated, you probably will find more marriages, because people actually do want to get married. Men want to marry and build a legacy, and women want to marry and find love and have protection in this world that's misogynistic. So it's actually what we want, right? I think if Kendra G's, because I'm a little bit familiar with her, if her show is a little bit higher elevated, and I know Kendra G is not super wild, when you do a show, or when you talk to, we're clinical therapists, and some of the stuff we've seen in the last 25 years is the wildest stuff you ever wanted to see in your life. And we're certainly not advertising. Our story, our infidelity story, was on Oprah Winfrey, and 11 million people saw it. So, I mean, it's stuff out there. You're going to see stuff out there, like, because we all out here in this soup, and we all out here in this mess. But I'm just saying, this particular brother, whatever his name was, he had the super big guns, right? He was out there, nah, queen, you ain't qualified. You ain't this, that, that. And then the girl's like, the one girl who was like, I don't really have an issue. I don't want to say I'm perfect, but I don't really get into a lot of conflicts. In about 5 minutes, she was like, you look like a Ninja Turtle, and you this, and then somebody called this man's job. He lost his job. Yeah, he's selling the merch, but if he was telling the truth, if he was telling the truth, first of all, he has a little bit of cushion financially, because he said
he's trying to make money.
He was sitting on money. But I think if that dude left off that show and he didn't pull that first girl, she was the first girl in line. And I'm saying that this girl is one of the most, she is, to me, in my opinion, in my sensibilities as a man, and I'm happily married, I'm not looking for nobody, but in terms of class, in terms of poise, in terms of beauty, in terms of dress, in terms of the way she spoke, she's the best contestant that I've ever seen on these shows. She's not even my style. She's short, but she still was the best that I've ever seen on these shows. He left with her after he slammed on all them other women. And then when he left with her, all these people start calling this job, like now we want to do damage in your life. And what that's saying to me is damage was done to you. and you were
And that's why when you
you
have a fragile group of people, you're magnetizing a fragile group of viewers and then
right,
some fragile feedback. And
right,
this is why
and
you're going to see the comments and what they are. And
right,
you're going to
and
follow people,
it's a sad
and eventually you're
commentary,
using your skills for the worst thing. And I
right,
think
to
that,
hurt each other.
this is, like I believe this is the, you know, devolution of a lot of the just negative entertainment. But I do believe that what happens when you reach the bottoms is that you only can go up, right? So it is for people um, who don't want that, who actually want relationships, who want love, who want support, who want help, who want direction. It's for those people to put that energy out, whether it's in the
Yeah,
request, whether it's in the comments, whether it's, you have to, your attention. And this is something that I think we also forget because we just have been around social media for so long. We forget that these things are free, but it's our attention that's paying. So although you're like, oh, it's not my show, it's not, we have this kind of very isolated, fractured, individualistic perspective because of the culture that we're living in, that we don't even recognize that when something is going viral, that kind of attention that we're giving it is what's feeding it and feeding the children of it and the grandchildren of it. So the stuff that we were giving attention to is now bred this. This that we're giving attention to is going to breed something else
and that's my
until you can
concern.
actually
How much
say,
lower can we go?
well, hopefully not too much lower, right? So
We're
where this is why I'm saying I believe the pendulum will swing back. And what I think is a lot of times people are saying they're coming off of social media, or they want a slower life. They want to meet in person. They want to do these things that are an ode back to human contact. And I think that as these things become a less attractive, people will put their attention someplace else. And I think the first thing is just understanding that that attention is currency. In the same way that people are craving the attention and leading with their, I'm a model and this is my IG handle and I want people to come into my DMs. When you lead with that, you're craving attention. And I understand that there's a void of attention, of true, genuine care, empathy, listening, anything that would really be the reflection of I'm giving you true, genuine connection, right? Which is the attention, let alone something deeper, which is love. I think that if we can admit that that's what we really genuinely want and actually put energy towards that and get it, it's kind of like, real food versus junk food. You can say that you're hungry and you can eat some junk food. When you eat real food and you do it for some time, you realize I actually feel better. I look better. I am better. And that this was cheaper. It was faster. It was whatever, more full of an experience. I think that that's what we have to do when it comes to love and then when it comes to the bridge of entertainment and love, whether that's
yeah,
the music that we listen to, the movies that we watch, the network kind of television that we watch, and then this independent television or this independent entertainment, wherever it goes, whether it is on IG, TikTok, YouTube. We have to know that where we're putting the attention, we're asking for more of that thing.
well, I mean, again, what we talk about with anybody, I'm not telling people not to consume. I think that would be unrealistic. I'm saying that you have leverage, because I know with Arlette, she wouldn't, if in the comments 1,000 men said, well, and I think Arlette's attractive. I think she's a pretty woman. But if 1,000 men said, I don't find you attractive, she's not going to go back and forth with herself. Well, what about me isn't attractive? Like the way she's
Right.
doing. So I think to
But I
do
think she's
that,
also tried to bring people back
I think to
and
do
say this
that,
person deserves,
yeah, but I
you
don't think
know.
she's doing that from the place of striving to help the person as much as she is answering the cry of what got a
But this is
commentary or
why I'm saying
whatever.
putting the things that you want to see in the comments could be
Right.
a
I
way
think that
to, like
that's,
you said, get
yeah.
leverage and at least let people know, even if it is about views and you want to come back for another video, that you're doing that in the lane of, oh, I see what the people actually want. So I might have bought in on something that was, I want to go viral. Like I said about reality TV, when you see a person's picture and you interview them, you're still saying as a producer, is this going to sell in whatever kind of way, right? Is this person funny? Are they dynamic? Do they have some presentation of conflict where we think we're going to capture something that's good? When you put those things in the comments saying, "Oh, this person didn't get a chance," and then they come back, it's because someone is combing the comments to see what's the next thing that we should produce. And I'm saying that if we recognize that, I think the view sometimes, the just racking up a view is anonymous in a way, right? So you're like, oh, I got 1 million views, I got 2 million views, something so-called went viral. I think if we really understood that just because you're watching and you're one of 1 million, if we understood that we're still paying with our attention, and if we made a comment in the direction that we wanted to go, if it's the majority of the people who actually want love, and I believe that it is, like you're saying, it's the overwhelming majority. If we actually say what it is that we want, then there's more of a like the burden for these people to produce based on the proof of what we're saying that we want, which we can see. When people have a blow up and is viral, those people are then on the next podcast and on another show, and it's because of the I can borrow some of your
It's wave riding.
currency.
You're
It's kind
riding
of
the
like the
wave.
interest
Yeah.
on your currency is spilling over to me if I can catch you fast enough. And I think that this is just what
That's
we have
actually
to.
what we don't do well. we don't. We don't.
But even we're having this conversation right now because
Yeah.
of a tipping point of
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
much
Yeah. Yeah. Like
something
I
has
had
gone
enough
viral.
of it. I can't take
So
it
we
anymore.
said, oh, this is
Yeah.
interesting. Oh, this is, and the attention went there, right? So
Yeah.
here's a thing that I never heard of, and now I've seen, like you said, I've seen 10 different episodes.
Right.
So the truth is that there's always a unified consciousness, and we get to see it now more than any other time in modern history because we have social media and we have instant access to thousands, hundreds of thousands, and millions of people. And if we can recognize that what is a universal truth, that we're all connected, and that where our attention goes is it's magnetism. Because of the focus, we get more of that thing that we're focused on. If we actually could embrace that and understand, we're labeling it still externally, like this thing went viral. If we label it internally, like I'm paying attention to something and now I'm only paying attention to something because somebody else paid attention to it, then we can say, let me drop in the comments what I actually would like to see. Let me, and this is what we always say when we say self, other, understanding, love. When we say soul system, the other is such a interesting dynamic to me because we in community, we actually owe the other our feedback, not in the way to hurt them and get a tag out of it to print onto a t-shirt and sell the merch because you came up with a one-liner, and to brand it like you said about the woman in politics. Like you're like, oh, I said this sentence, trademarked, branded, right? Because we're always looking for how to turn something into merch. And I get it because you want to do it first. It came out of your mouth, you want to do it first, right? But if we can say to ourselves that I owe the other where I'm putting my attention and I'm consuming from them, I owe some genuine feedback. I owe some direction because this is the reciprocity and back and forth of what it takes to be in exchange with someone. If it wasn't so anonymous and you weren't behind the screen and you didn't say, I'm just one of the people who saw it and my little, 10 minutes on it or 15 seconds on a soundbite on social media, it means nothing. If we didn't, think that way, we wouldn't have the people who are keyboard gangsters, the people who are just racking up views, the people who saying, if you like it, I love it, and all of those things that mean I'm
Right.
removed from the community.
Right.
Then we would have some leverage and we would have the influence go in the way that we want it to go because we have the influence, and the proof of it is that a thing could go so-called viral.
My
I
man
think it's
came on the
interesting that
show
the
and
term is
said,
even
"You just did
viral,
me a favor."
right? And that's on the t-shirt. So shout out to him. He'll
Oh
probably
man,
make
no,
more
no,
money
no, no, that's not
in his
good.
merch
That's not
sales.
good.
But see,
That's
this is
not
the
good.
challenge, and this is
It's
why
not good to be saying you just did me a favor.
this is
Like,
why
no, that's not
we
good.
have to be able to use our influence and leverage to go in the directions that we want. Because if, as the time capsule, right? If you opened up the time capsule, you would think this is what we wanted because this is what is proliferating because of our attention, right? I think when you think of a virus and something being viral, that it's very interesting that we have this kind of tone about the things that we say we don't like.
This is a good question from Cosmics Energy. When does a person's desire become delusional in the dating world, or should everyone get what they want.
Everyone should get what they need. And we'll get what they need.
Everyone has a desire. So it's either a desire to be left alone, a desire to find somebody. So everyone has a desire. The issue, though, G,
is what the desires are based on.
Is not what the desire is. It is actually what my man said in a very hurtful way on that show. It's their qualification, because it's not what you desire, it's what you're qualified for. And this is why the focus is skill and not will, because your desire is what you will to happen. What you get is what you're skilled enough to make happen. And so
some desires that are solely physical or superficial, it's about your values and your belief system. So you can have all the skill in the world, and if you just desire a tall person or a short person, you know, the max that you can do is get around those people, right? You can't make a person that you are attracted to grow a foot.
Well, you know, you saw the dude on the one show. He was like, "I'm coming back with the operation," because they have this operation now where men. So I'm 6'3". Don't get this operation, man. If you're 5'7", you're 5'6". The average woman is 5'4", 5'5". So
but this comes from perception.
You know, right? You don't have to. But this is the thing, because
women have been having surgeries for a very long time based off of perception.
Well, look at the damage of BBLs and all of the stuff that's happening. So everybody's taking them out. But listen, if you let these doctors go in your leg, break your legs, and put some prosthetics in there so that you can be taller, I don't know how you reverse that. Well, that's different than putting some jelly substance in your behind.
And it's not, that's not always easily reversible. So
no, right.
There's always a repercussion in any kind of elective cosmetic surgery.
I never thought I would be seeing this.
Yeah, I never even thought that was possible.
I remember a time when only white folks had tattoos.
But this
to see us go from, I was aghast watching Michael Jackson and his transformations. But to see so many of us, see people come from hip hop, like Little Kim and others, really, really distort their bodies and their faces. And now we're in this place. It is the greatest sense of dysmorphia that I've ever seen as a person.
Because if your desire is something that is
unhealthy.
Not only unhealthy, but like I'm thinking of a word that it's unnatural, right? Some of our desires are not genuine relationship desires. They are superficial things that then are really a reflection of what we find as a inferior in ourselves, right? So sometimes we're saying, I desire for this person to have this, and this, but it actually speaks to our own sense of inferiority.
Like Shahid is saying, a lack of cultural identity. Absolutely.
Of course, because culture and identity are the perfect words to go together. Right?
Yeah.
Your culture is your value system, your belief system, and it's what is natural to you, which is your identity, is how you're presenting in the world. For us, we don't have a sense of culture that is natural, and we don't have the proper sense of identity because of it. So even when we're presenting as Black people, as whatever comes after the IN, when we're saying our identity, a lot of times it is unnatural and it is not in alignment with anything that would be considered authentic to who we really are. So because we don't even know that, this is why the questions are superficial. This is why even when you think you have the deepest question, it's also superficial, because you actually are not prepared to hear what the person's saying. So you don't have a sense of culture in the sense that it's your values and your belief system. Because I think some of the people have been African to do the show, I've seen people label part of their identity as Nigerian, as Ghanaian, as, this element of the aspects of culture, like we say. So maybe you can say some words, and I see people do that, like, oh, are you Yoruba? And they might say something, right? Because they're recognizing their people superficially in dress, in accent, in name, right? But what happens
But if you're truly Yoruba, you wouldn't even be on a damn show.
Are the aspects of culture that we eat the same food, that we've called it the same thing, that we have the same names, that we have a certain recognition of dress. Just like when you go around the world as an American, if you stick out your hand or somebody sticks out their hand and you go to shake hands, that's a very American thing, North American, United States of America thing to do, is to shake hands. So you can tell how a person was grown up in that superficial level of culture. But if you go around the world, people know what is the United States of American mindset, right? That you're an individual, that all that matters is what you are going through, that you're most important, that you're first, that you're the best, even when you're not, right? So those things, we forget that that's part of culture, that your value system by what you're doing is speaking for you, and your identity, how you're labeling yourself, is what you're choosing to present. So these things are extremely important to understand so that you ask the right questions, answer in the right way, and that you have the best intention. That is something that's natural. But I think that
Well,
when people are altering themselves like this, whether it's hair, eyelashes, nails, you can do anything as an adornment. But when it speaks to this is the only way that I can present is in some altered version of myself, and that the
you
altered
don't like
version of
yourself.
myself is the best or the better or the most magnetic, you don't like yourself, you don't love yourself, and that's not a place to come from to be looking for the compliment. This is something that we always talk about when you meet someone. There's an element that you're meeting your match all the time, right? There's an element that you're meeting your frequency, that that person, you're on the same level. And this is hard for people to accept, whether it's a pop the balloon, whether it's online dating, whether it was your actual relationship that ended or the one that you're in. Sometimes when you're looking at a person and you're seeing all the things that are wrong and all the things that are off about them, you are coming from a level, you're coming from the presentation that you're at a higher level than them, and that you can say these things, that you're somehow allowed based on your level, because a lot of times, like, oh, I got this amount of money and I got this, as though that qualifies you to tear somebody else down. When the truth is, if you're there in the same space having the same kind of conversation, especially at a certain frequency, you can tell the people who are really at a little bit of a higher frequency, because they either dissolve the person's argument that is happening in front of them, or they elevate the conversation in a different way and they cause a shift in the other person. When two people are on the same frequency going back and forth, you're at the same level. You're not better than that person. You're attracting exactly what you are. And this is
Yeah,
something that
we
we have to really be able to
it ain't no
understand.
dating down or dating up. You date
Our
exactly where you are.
desires are based on identity, on
Right.
what we're saying that we are to ourselves and what we're assuming some other person is. And our desires are based on culture. Do we have the desire to link through value system? And then what is the proof of the value system and the belief system?
You
Not just
know,
somebody
I
saying something real quick and you'd be like, okay, great, yeah, oh, all right. But how would you know? Even if that's the next question, that's what it should be, right?
yeah, you can't vet a person through questions. We've said
Yeah.
this for 25 years. The only way you could really vet a person is to be present in their life. And so that's why courting is different than dating, because dating is doing activities to entertain, courting is interviewing for relationships. And so dating has not served Black people in the last 60, 70 years that we've been doing it. With the millions of years that we've been on the earth, dating is a very new phenomenon, and it doesn't work. It hasn't produced what we want it to produce. We actually love Black people. We went to school to start a counseling consulting firm that fill a void that was missing for Black people. We tried our hand. We played around with reality TV, and we started out on the highest levels, working with Oprah, Magic Johnson, and different people. And we were pitching a reality show several, over 10, 15 years ago. Um, so, maybe there's someone coming after us that is going to be really good in that space. I don't know, but I'm just concerned. I love Black people. I want to see us get together. I want to see Black men win at love. I want to see Black women get what they want. It is possible, but we have to focus on relationship skills. We got to be able to understand all of these 7 skills that we're talking about in all the work that we do. And we got to understand how to utilize them to produce what we want. Because a lot of times, again, as I said at the outstart, it's not finding the perfect person for your relationship. It's finding the perfect person to build the relationship with. But it becomes very difficult with all the outside noise and the influence. And even couples who are not um, on these shows and stuff, they're still being influenced by the overarching culture. And so if the overarching culture is saying is, you got couples, and you remember we had a client, that client from California, where they got into an argument over a reality show,
Mhm.
some stuff that happened on a reality show. Then the wife brought it to the husband, and they got into an argument. And I'm like, look, I told
But you
them,
can argue
listen,
about
y'all,
anything.
y'all too old for that to be. I mean, and I know that was a trigger and not the real root of what they were dealing with. But the point being, this stuff is permeating. I mean, we're married 24 years. We're cultural therapists. I'm watching these shows. So I know a lot of people, maybe you aren't watching as much as I did, because I know you didn't even watch as much as I introduced, like, hey, watch this and look at this. Look at what's happening with young people out here. Now, what's concerning to me is I think they got some feedback. The contestants on the show are a little older now. Like at first it was very young people in their 20s, and you still
But we'll
see
see if that's as
23 or
sensational,
whatever.
right?
Well,
Does that
I
get the
think
same amount of views?
well, I don't know if it gets the same amount of views, but what I do know, the respect level is higher.
It is.
Because when you're younger, you're more immature, you're more insecure, and so when somebody
And you
triggers
are,
you,
the older you get, the more aware of your options you actually become.
yeah, and I think for some of the older people, they're looking on there knowing they're more quicker to pop their balloon. I think they've gotten feedback that to not have people pop the balloon so quick. So I think that they have told the people, it's just my instinct is telling me, because I've watched around 10, 11 of them, that they're telling people don't pop so quick because of how it is. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, all of these things combined, it's hookup culture, speed dating, some of these dating sites definitely pop the balloon. If we go back to the flavor of love, the rock of love, the hundreds of love shows that were out there, reality shows, I think the overwhelming majority of them, even if we go back to the dating game and things like that, the dating game, I think was the first show like that, became popular when the divorce rate started to boom in the country. And there was this mass amount of single people out here. How do we connect? And that was the thing on everybody's lips. And so shows like the dating game and others started to emerge. But here we are now, 40, 50 years from a lot of those shows, and the evidence is that we're getting worse and worse and worse. So we have to not like enjoy our demise as entertainment. I think so. One of the things you could do is, like Nawasha is saying, don't hesitate to elevate the conversation from your single comment. I would like to see more people with more class. I would like to see the men dress better, or the women dress better. We would like to have a show with just the host to talk about why they're doing these shows and what their relationship status is. That's very important because, I always say, whether it's Kevin Samuels or whatever, whoever it is, you're going to end up in the place of the people that you're following. If you're following a person who isn't married, who doesn't really like men or doesn't really like women, who doesn't have any skill, who can't decode this global system that's oppressing us and making us all crazy, then you're dealing with a dangerous situation because somebody who's in the lead is not qualified. And this is what, to Cosmic's Energy's question and statement, when does a person's desire become delusional? A lot of the hosts of these shows are actually delusional. And so if their foundation is delusional, then everything that comes from it or births out of it is similarly delusional. And this is the challenge. And this is what we're presenting. So there are things that you could do. If you are really creative, come up with good ideas that you might start something. I think we've kind of released that now in our tenure where we are 20 years in. We're striving to help people using the Black Love School paid membership, Akoma Soul, our premier relationship program that's teaching you the 7 skills, or individual counseling and coaching around relationships for Blacks in leadership who are looking for love. So, but everybody has their contribution in their background, and you don't got to be a therapist. You should at least be in a relationship, but you don't have to have quote unquote formal training, because the best training is actually having a successful relationship. But you got to love Black people, and you can't really use them for sensationalism or views or whatever, because the dopamine effect that happens when a crazy moment happens on your show, then you want to keep having more crazy moments. And by um, 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 you inadvertently hurt the masses of us. And I think you might mean well, and you might not be thinking up front, but on the backside, you see that, oh wow, I did a lot of damage. And so whether that's in music, whether that's in shows like this, as we talk about relationship, if we want the freedom of successful love, we got to take the responsibility, because freedom and responsibility is a double-sided coin. On one side is one, and on the other side is the other. So if we want the freedom to love and to be um, popular, we have to take the responsibility of the people who are following us and the people who believe in us to produce something. So that's our message for today. Pop the balloon, speed dating, hookup culture, the road to hell. Follow us here. If you found value here, like, subscribe, share. We're bringing out content on the art and science of Black love culture so that you could win at the intimate love relationship. New classes in the Black Love School, the promiscuity paradox, and no more STDs, spiritually transmitted diseases that become sexually transmitted diseases. So that's what we have coming up new all this summer. We're in the heat of love semester at our firm. So all of the talks are about intimacy and sex. We want to build intimacy so that we can have mind-blowing sex and not try to use sex to connect, because that doesn't work. It's the wrong order of operations. But if you want any help, we'll put the links in this description here for you to have a soulmate strategy session, which is our free consultation. So you can, talk about what your challenges are, and we can give you some insight and help prescribe you to what we offer, or refer you out somewhere that could possibly help you. So we want you to win, Black people. Black love is the move, it's the wave, it's the real seed to nation building and us coming up as a people. And it's the only way we're going to break intergenerational curses, get the bag, and all of this other delusional stuff that we talking about. None of that stuff means anything when you're an individual up against a systemic plethora of families, right? So we got to build families to build nations. So that's our love message. That's what we wanted to talk about. We thank you all for participating.
Yeah.
The questions were greatly appreciated. Like, subscribe, and share this to anybody who you think has value. So I wish I had a balloon right now. Pop! You know what I mean? Yeah, we should have thought of that, right? I think we got balloons upstairs. But it's all good. Just imagine, on 3, we're going to pop the balloon. So as always, we're greeting you in peace in the words of the art and science of Black love culture. And we're saying,
Yakuma.
pop, 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 pop. Hotep.